Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, here we are again. It is Friday. Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome into Locked On Vols. I am Eric Cain. Thank you so much for making Locked On Vols your first listen. If you're watching us on YouTube, thanks so much. Every single morning at 9 a.m. it premieres, and of course, you can go back and check it all day long. Please subscribe. Please support the show on YouTube. Our goal is 1,000, and we continue to inch on closer towards that. Just 2 weeks now with the show on YouTube. But Locked On Vols, your first listen each and every day, available anywhere you get your podcast. Locked On Vols, your team every single day, and I just, it's going to be a fun show. I mean, it really, really is. Like I said in the cold open, let's go ahead and get right out into it, all right? So I'm sure you guys have been aware some SEC coaches have been taking some verbal jabs amongst one another. So earlier this week, it was National Signing Day. Like we've talked about on the show, it doesn't have all the hoopla that it used to. National Signing Day is pretty much now in December with the early signing period, right? From a Tennessee perspective, I mean, Tennessee did nothing. They signed one player, but he committed from over the weekend, so it wasn't a surprise. But for some other top programs around the country, there were some blue chippers, some 4 stars, highly rated 4 stars, some 5 stars who went ahead and signed and flipped and did their little thing on National Signing Day. So there was still some interest there from SEC schools, particularly Texas A&M, Ole Miss, Florida, a little bit of Alabama, Missouri a little bit. But nonetheless, kind of leading up to signing day, Lane Kiffin, who's never short for a quote, had this today leading up to signing day, all right? In immediate availability, he said, "We don't have the funding resources as some schools with these name, image, and likeness deals. It's like dealing with salary caps." He says some schools can pay 5 to 10 times more than that of LSU. Quote from Kiffin, "I joked I didn't know if Texas A&M incurred a luxury tax with how much they paid for their signing class." More on Lane Kiffin. Somehow, they're going to have to control name, image, and likeness. You've got these salary caps, schools giving players millions to sign before they even play. Any other places not being able to do that. What would the NFL look like if 2 or 3 teams could pay 10 times more in the salary cap? Kiffin goes on. There are some schools with no shot to recruit certain players. If a class has an average of $25 million in name, image, and likeness, that's $1 million a person. In NFL free agency, players go to the most money. These players are 17, 18 years old. They're going to go where they get paid the most. You've legalized paying players. And that's what name, image, and likeness is, for better or for worse. It's going to play a huge role in recruiting. That's just fact of the matter. So you either got to get with it or, get lost. There might be some controlling of the name, image, and likeness down the road, but right now it's the Wild Wild West. We're also trying to figure it out. And so, and again, we can have a bigger issue. We can have a bigger discussion on name, image, and likeness. You guys know how I view it. I think it's fair game, right? I think everybody deserves to profit off his or her own name, image, and likeness. But you'd be foolish not to think this is going to come into recruiting. Now, the schools are not allowed to facilitate it, meaning if you go on an official visit, Lane Kiffin can't say, "Hey, if you come here, I'll give you $5 million." They're not supposed to, but just like in the old days, you weren't supposed to pay players. So that just kind of is what it is, reading between the lines, right? But no doubt about it, blue chippers are going to get NIL deals in recruiting, and it happens everywhere in the SEC, believe me, right? So Lane Kiffin had to say that earlier this week. And again, it's legal now. I mean, it's legal. So like there's no ifs, ands, buts about it. It's completely legal now. Again, the schools are not supposed to facilitate it, but again, name, image, and likeness is legal. So, sparking up a NIL deal with a recruit once he signs to Tennessee, that's legal as long as the school doesn't do it. So, or facilitate it. So that's what Lane Kiffin had to say on this whole matter. Here's what Jimbo Fisher had to say in retaliation in his press availability following signing day on Wednesday. Keep in mind, Texas A&M, a historic signing class. Number 2 in Rivals, but number 1 all the way across the board, every other publication. They have brought in some great players. Give this a listen or give this a view here on YouTube of what Jimbo Fisher had to say, essentially in retaliation.
Game here? You ever come to school here and see the education? You ever talk about the 12th man, the Aggie Network when you're done? There ain't a better university in this country. And it's insulting to what you say. And all these, and we got writers who have said it and done it off sliced bread. A guy named Slice who made it up. Love to see who sliced bread is and put it out there with sliced bread. Let me find out where it comes from. And then to have coaches in our league and across this league to say it, clown acts. All right? Irresponsible as hell. Multiple coaches in our league. And the guy's griping about NIL, griping about transfer portal, using it the most and bragging about it the most. That's the ironic part. You want character? I'll take it with any of y'all. It's a joke. It does piss me off.
So that was Jimbo Fisher on Wednesday. First of all, I can't continue on with this podcast without acknowledging how he says the word league across this league. I mean, listen, I have my issues in pronunciation and saying words. You guys have heard that, on this podcast plenty of times. So I've got no room to talk, but I think that is hilarious. So that was Jimbo Fisher, a pissed off Jimbo Fisher, a fiery Jimbo Fisher, obviously talking about Lane Kiffin, who talked about Texas A&M the day before, or 2 days before. Also, don't forget, Lane Kiffin came out and was tweeting that he is the portal king. He is the transfer portal king earlier this week as well. So obviously, Jimbo Fisher is talking about Lane Kiffin. Well, every school or every single time the conversation of paying players or name, image, and likeness now gets brought up, Alabama is going to get brought up. It has been for years and years and years, and it's going to continue to because Alabama gets the best players routinely and wins championships. The question was asked about the regulation of name, image, and likeness and how that needs to be, formatted going forward. Here's what Nick Saban had to say following his signing day press conference here on Wednesday.
I've always been able to work. I think it's a good thing that players now have an opportunity to work and make money through name, image, and likeness. I would hope that we come up with some system in the future where, and I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but I don't think players should make a decision about where they go to school relative to how much money they're going to make in name, image, and likeness. I think all the players on our team who made money in name, image, likeness this year, had representation on their own, and all those deals were created on their own based on their brand and what they did. There's nobody at this institution that had anything to do with any of that. I just don't think that somebody should pick a school because of the institution, the relationships that they have, how they can develop personally, academically, and athletically, and the kind of program that they have and the kind of institution that they want to go to. So I just hope that it doesn't get to where name, image, and likeness deals are created, for high school players to get them to go to a particular institution. And I'm not accusing anybody of that. I'm not saying anybody did that. That's not why I'm saying this. I'm just saying philosophically, I think it's great that players can earn the right to make money through name, image, and likeness when they're on a college team. I just hope it doesn't get to that point because then you open up, a whole new can of worms when it comes to recruiting.
It's like a defensive back putting his hands up like, I didn't touch the guy, penalty flag, pass interference. No, it wasn't me, though. I didn't say anything. I'm not accusing anybody. That's Nick Saban. That all sounds great, all, but, it is what it is. Plus, the premise of what Saban is saying, absolutely correct. You hope that a prospect will never make the decision on where he's going to go to school based off an endorsement deal he's going to get in through name, image, and likeness. You want to go for the school, the relationships, the academics, all that. I mean, all that stuff sounds great. But even before name, image, and likeness, I mean, long gone were the days of you attending school for the school, right? It's about the relationships. That's why you always got to say you don't want to get too attached to a head coach because they could be gone in the matter of, just whenever he gets a better job offer. So I wanted to play that clip from Saban. Yeah, it all sounds good there, Nick Saban, but that's not quite how the world works. And you, my friend, you know that better than anybody. All right, so some good, juicy content from fellow SEC programs and SEC head coaches this week. Wanted to bring some of that onto the pod. Name, image, and likeness. It's not going anywhere. It will certainly be in recruiting from here on out. How it's regulated moving forward? Question mark. We'll have to see. But right now, it is the wild, wild west. And hey, it is completely legal. It's no more wink winks. Okay, it's completely legal as long as the schools themselves do not facilitate these deals. We'll have our buddy from Locked On Auburn, Zac Blackerby, join us here in segment number 2 to talk a little bit about the Senior Bowl. But first, guys, BetOnline. It's got you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before as football continues its march throughout the playoffs right up to the big game here in just a couple of weeks. It'll be a week from Sunday. BetOnline.net remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, news throughout the entire season. And it's not just football either. BetOnline has up-to-the-minute info on pro and college hoops, NHL, boxing, UFC, along with real live-time updates on the current games. Don't wait to take advantage of all these amazing offers available for the 2022 season. BetOnline, it is where the game starts. And you guys know me. I've been telling you about this app. Everybody needs to know about who drives. It's called GetUpside. My listeners right now are earning cash back for every single gallon of gas every time they fill up. Just download the free GetUpside app in the App Store or Google Play right now. And while you're there, use the promo code SCORE for 25 cents per gallon or more on your first fill up. Cash back. Don't pay full price to the pump anymore. Get cash back using GetUpside. Just download the app for free. Use the promo code SCORE for 25 cents per gallon or more on your first tank. Some people who drive a lot are making as much as $200 to $300 a year in cash back, and there's no catch. The cash back is added right to your account. You can cash out at any time using your bank account, PayPal, e-gift cards, Amazon, and other brands. Just download the free GetUpside app and use that promo code SCORE to get up to 25 cents per gallon or more cash back on your first tank. That's promo code SCORE at GetUpside. Segment 2 of a Friday show. Welcome back into it here on Locked On Vols. I am your host, Eric Cain, and now I'm pleased to bring to the show my good friend, Zac Blackerby. He is the host of Locked On Auburn and does a fantastic job. The standard is right up here with Zac and Locked On Auburn. He does an awesome job, and he was at the Senior Bowl all week long. Well, Senior Bowl practices, so I wanted to bring him onto the show. Zac, what's going on, man?
Hey, dude. Thanks for having me on. Congrats on being with the network for a year. You've absolutely blown it out of the water. And so, but yeah, Senior Bowl was fun, man. It was cool seeing a bunch of Locked On hosts. We got to get you down to Mobile next year, so we you can kind of have fun and join the party. But crummy weather, but it was cool seeing everybody for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get down there. Absolutely, just for anything, just to network with all you guys. And I mean, it's just the who's who in sports media that's down there. Plus, you get representatives, head coaches, general managers, front office personnel that's down there from every single organization. So a really, really, really cool time. Josh Heupel, Cody Burns, a couple of the assistant coaches for Tennessee, they were down there this week. And so how important is this week for these student athletes? I mean, I keep stressing the game is fine. The game is going to take place on Saturday, but it's the Tuesday through Friday work that is important, right?
I think it's that. And I think it's even more important, the conversation. I mean, all the teams are there. They're talking to these dudes, in professional settings and interview settings. I think that stuff's more important than even what they're doing on the field. A team's not going to draft you or not draft you based on what you did with all of this. But I do think it puts a little bit more on tape with some guys that maybe are playing out of position, which, Cade Mays kind of scooting around the offensive line, playing things that he wasn't used to, I think is really valuable for folks like that to kind of say, hey, you obviously have tape on me doing, other things, but, you scoot me inside a little bit and, you're being coached by an NFL coaching staff. I think that's appealing. I think that can certainly help you. But as far as, how much it's helping you kind of build these relationships with these teams, I think a lot of it's happening off of the field.
Yeah, it's a good point, kind of away from the practice field and the other things, the other functions that are going on. Yeah, you mentioned Cade Mays. He's a guard, played tackle this year. He's repping at center at the Senior Bowl, kind of like going back to his Georgia days where he's playing up and down the line. But we'll get to Tennessee players here in just a moment. Overall, what were some more impressive things you saw this week from Mobile?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just, seeing guys adapt to the pace of the game. And I think that's really what it comes down to. I mean, obviously quarterbacks draw a ton of the competition, Eric, and this quarterback class is interesting because there's no clear-cut number one guy. And I don't know how many guys are really even deserving to be picked in the first round of the draft. I think several of them will, just because teams are desperate to, find a quarterback. And so it's worth the lottery pick. But, Kenny Pickett, The conversation about his hand size was fascinating. Of course, the standout quarterback from Pitt, Malik Willis, the very athletic player from Liberty, the former Auburn Tiger, may I add. I jokingly said Auburn legend Malik Willis all week. People hated it. I'm the only one who thought it was funny, but that's fine. That's okay. But it's interesting to see those guys compete because they're really fighting for something. Desmond Ridder, he had a few moments, but I think inconsistencies at the quarterback position was kind of the thing I was most into.
Yeah, that's no surprise because, again, quarterback is what puts people in the seats, and that's what makes a franchise. And so, obviously, I saw the media scrum one of these days. Saw a picture on social media, the media scrum for Ridder, and it was like just a few people want to talk to Ridder this week. So I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
It's as far as the Tennessee personnel, you mentioned Cade Mays, offensive lineman. You had Velus Jones, the wide receiver and returner, both punt and kick returner. And, of course, Alontae Taylor, the cornerback. You mentioned a little bit about Cade. Anything about those that trio for Tennessee that you might have saw or you might have heard the talk while down in Mobile?
Yeah, the Cade Mays situation is interesting. I bet he's a guard, Eric. I'm a little intrigued why they moved him to center early in the week, but I bet he's a guard at the next level. That seems to be where most people want to see him. But he was on an offensive line that was getting dominated by the defensive front of pretty much all SEC dudes. And I don't know if it's necessarily a him thing. I mean, none of the offensive linemen looked good, but just the matchup wasn't there. Like the defensive line roster was better than the offensive line roster. So I don't know if that's really a Mays issue. I just think that's how it is. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how folks kind of respond to that. You mentioned Jones, the wide receiver. I think he plays physical, or at least he played physical this week. His big thing was if he didn't beat you off the line, he wasn't going to win the rep. He's good at exploding off the line, but his breaks didn't look as clean. And you and I talked briefly before we press that record button, but a pretty solid returner. You kind of expect his breaks to be a little bit cleaner, and that wasn't really the case. But he beat several guys off the line, which is something that you obviously want to see. And then maybe an NFL coaching staff can kind of develop his route tree a little bit more. So there's that. And then Alontae Taylor, admittedly, I didn't see a whole lot of him, but what I can remember, Eric, was when he stayed on his feet, he made good plays. I remember him falling down a few times. I don't know if it was his cleat situation or balance or what, but he fell down 2 or 3 times, which I didn't really notice that being a consistent theme throughout the week. So maybe, I don't know. Was that an issue at Tennessee? Did he have balance issues?
Yeah. That happened a time or two. So
okay. So maybe that's a trait on his part. So there you go.
Hey, these teams, I believe I believe the Senior Bowl, it's north south, right?
It's
is it east west?
No, it's American and national.
Okay, so whatever. How you sort those out, I don't know, but how do you sort those out? Do you know that? How do you make the American team or the national team?
So one is the Jets coaching staff, and one was the Lions coaching staff.
Yeah,
and they kind of pick and choose who they wanted.
So
that's my understanding of it.
There's a chance that the Tennessee players who were there could be on opposite teams.
I think there's a chance of that, but I don't think that happened. I think it was all. I think they kind of keep the same schools together.
Okay,
I mean, it seemed like, and I forget which one was the latter one, because there was like an early window and it's the same team. I think the American team is first and the national team was in the afternoon. And like all the SEC teams are like on the same team.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. So my next question was going to be, do they practice against one another, kind of like in NFL training camps where they have joint practices? Was that the case? Or I guess it was held at different times? Held
at different times. Yeah, there's an early window, and then there's like a 30-minute break, and then there's the latter. And so you have like the Jets running the first practice, then you have the Lions running the second practice. And I guess that's because, and the drills and the practice was different because it was like whatever the coaching staff wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I guess that's just to emulate, how they would be in practice, to give them that rep of what it would be like at the next level, what they'll eventually be doing, which makes sense. And what a great opportunity for the Jets and the Lions to see these guys firsthand. I mean, to get to know these guys and really get a closer look. So, yeah, props to both of those teams. I hate the Jets, but props to them.
Essentially, it's kind of like, okay, your team sucks right now, so you're going to get awarded this opportunity to go to the Senior Bowl. But hey, I would take it too. That sounds like a lot of fun.
And apparently, sorry to cut you off, the process is the team with the highest draft pick that keeps the coaching staff. So like the Jags would have gotten first dibs, but obviously with the Urban Meyer stuff, that was gone. And then these were the two that kind of fell into the pecking order.
Oh, that makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah,
we gotta get you out the door here. I really appreciate you coming on the show. We'll have to do this in a couple of weeks to preview a big basketball matchup. But on that note, Bruce Pearl, former Tennessee head coach. A lot of Tennessee Volunteer fans still want Bruce back. That's never going to happen.
Right.
But how's this ride been up to number one in program history for the very first time? And it's never a dull moment with Bruce Pearl, who's already had to sit out a couple games this year due to obviously the allegations allegedly into the Auburn program.
Right. Yeah, no, Bruce is great. I'm so thankful for that barbecue that he had with you guys forever ago. That was
it's a big one. Costly.
Yeah. The best barbecue to ever happen from an Auburn perspective. But
I
mean, the ride, I mean, he did this with Tennessee, right? Like he's one of the few active coaches to take multiple teams to that number one spot. And so obviously Auburn and Tennessee originally. So he's one of the best in the country, and he got paid, and he's going to get paid for a very long time. He got interest from Louisville, and then he used that to get a few things out of the Auburn administration, including more money for him, more money for his staff, and also a basketball-only facility on the way, which is remarkable that Auburn is at that point. So, but yeah, Bruce has been incredible, and obviously Auburn goes to Knoxville in a few weeks, and Bruce has really had Tennessee's number. It's almost like it means a little bit extra for him or something, huh?
Yeah, I would say so. Those games stick out. And Bruce, I know we're up against him, but like Bruce, like Milwaukee, Wisconsin, whatever school he was at before Tennessee, it's been so long ago, I can't remember.
Sure.
He took that team to the Sweet 16. He came to Tennessee, obviously took Tennessee on a couple of runs, put Tennessee into the Elite Eight, number one in the country, and then now what he's doing at Auburn. He's, like you said, he is one of the best active coaches to be doing it right now. He's a stud, that's for sure.
Yep, no question. And with questions around the country, and with Coach K leaving, I think you can make the argument he's a top 5 coach right now, which is really fun to see.
Yep, especially at a football school like Auburn. So, Zach, appreciate it, man.
Like a basketball school like Auburn. Thank you very much.
Hey, we're gonna do it again here in a couple weeks to preview that matchup. Thanks so much for being our eyes down in Mobile this week.
Hey, thank you, brother. Talk to you soon.
Man, that is Zac Blackerby from Locked On Auburn. Technically, he's my boss, but he's a cool guy. So really, we'll have to have him back on the show for sure. Zach, a big fan of the Built Bars. He told me right before we got on here. It's New Year's resolutions, and if you're wanting to get fit, maybe lose some weight, and check out that calorie count, you guys need to check out the Built Bars. Built Bar is a protein bar. It looks and tastes like a candy bar, maybe even better than a candy bar. You want to eat healthy, but sometimes it just gets so boring week 2 or week 3. You're saying, hey, where's the chocolate? Well, Built Bar is covered in 100% chocolate for your liking, but it's only got about 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, 17 grams of protein. However, that's the difference. And compare all that to a normal candy bar where you're sitting around 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. Plus, the flavors are incredible. You got peanut butter brownie, raspberry, cookies and cream, coconut almond, mint brownie, salted caramel, all that and more. You can find it at Built.com. While you're there, while you're at Built.com, use that promo code LOCK15. You're going to get 15% off your order. Again, use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off. That is at Built.com. All right, one more segment left here on a Friday Locked On Vols. Been a fun week. We've had some great guests on as well. And thank you guys for hanging out with us and making Locked On Vols your first listen each and every day. All right, we'll get to a Tennessee, South Carolina preview here in just a moment. But, oh, my goodness, Lady Vols last night, 84-59 was the final score. It's probably me. So here's let's look behind the curtain here. My mind's a programmer. I'm a radio guy. So I know what drives the ship here. I know what moves the meter. Tennessee football, Tennessee football, Tennessee football, Tennessee football, Tennessee football, okay? Then there's men's basketball. Then there's VFLs in the NFL. Then there's SEC football, stuff like that. And then it's Lady Vols. That's the same way in radio. And that's no disrespect to the ladies. It just, point blank, hey, I like giving my listeners what they want to hear. I like making money, and that's that for the most part. That's what ratings reflect, right? But knowing this Lady Vols team and the talent that's been on this Lady Vols team in the starts of the season, knowing the potential that's there of a March run, I've been starting to sprinkle in some Lady Vols content. I'm sure you guys have caught up on that, okay? That's just kind of how my programming mind worked. But since I've been doing that, Lady Vols have lost 2 games. Last Thursday night to a winless team in SEC play in Auburn, and last night to a Florida team that was 15-6 on the season, 5-3 in SEC play. A team that historically has 4 wins. I read that stat. 4 wins against the Lady Vols historically. So maybe it's my fault. Maybe I should just shut up and never talk about them again. But Wolf. So I'll take the L on that one, but I can't take all the credit because goodness gracious, Lady Vols shot 30% from the field, only had 1 player scoring double figures. That was Dye, 9 points from Darby as well. You had Ray Burrell scoring 9 points, 8 points from Tamari Key. Jordan Horson that scored 5 points at 6 turnovers. Meanwhile, the Florida shot 53% from the field. Lady Vols just got demolished in 3 of the 4 quarters. Outscored 25-18 in quarter number 1. They deadlocked at 11 apiece in quarter number 2. 23-12 outscored in quarter 3. 25-18 outscored in quarter 4. Tennessee just a bad showing. And really, since that, 15-0, start in conference play or whatever the case may be, or excuse me, that 15-1 start to the season. Even the games they've won, they've been struggling a little bit. Had to, rally to come back and defeat Georgia. That was a tough team. Of course, that was a ranked matchup. Lost to Auburn. Had to win in overtime against Arkansas, and then just got demolished against Florida. That's not what you want because you head into a big weekend showdown with UConn on the road. So you hope Lady Vols bounce back. The talent is still there. I think Kelly Harper's done a fantastic job navigating through this injury-plagued season, but not a good showing against Florida on Thursday night. Didn't want to have to come on the podcast and talk about it, but just like I am with Tennessee football, Tennessee basketball, got to be objective. Call it like I see it, and that was bad on Thursday night. All right, Tennessee men's hoops. They are going to be back on the road 1 o'clock at South Carolina. The Volunteers, number 22 in the country, 15-6. 6-3 in SEC play. South Carolina is 13-8, 4-5 in SEC play. South Carolina started SEC play 1-4, but has since won 3 of 4 games, 9-2 at home. Those losses on the year at home coming to top-ranked Auburn and then Florida. Tennessee is currently number 13 in the net rankings. Each of the 6 losses for the Volunteers are quadrant 1 losses. You look at kind of how these teams stack up in a number of categories. Adjusted offensive efficiency. South Carolina is 219th in the country. Adjusted defensive efficiency. Tennessee is 8th in the country. South Carolina is 30th in the country. So just a little bit about how those teams stack up in that regard. You look at South Carolina, you've got the leading scorer for South Carolina, and his name is James Reese, had 15 points against Tennessee back on January the 11th. Actually, he's their second leading scorer, averages almost 11 points a game. Last 3 games, he's averaging 18 points a game, so somebody that's really, really hot right now. The leading scorer is guard Eric Stevenson, averaging 17 points a game in SEC home games, compared to just 7.2 points per game in the conference road games. Gamecocks ranked 13th in the country. It's second in the SEC with 13.4 offensive rebounds per game, and they're holding opponents to just a 40% clip from the field. That is 40th best in the nation, 3rd best in the SEC. So Guy Ziegler did a really, really nice job against South Carolina last time out as Tennessee beat South Carolina 66-46 at home January the 11th. In his first rotation of the game, had a rebound, 2 assists, 2 steals, 4 points, finished the game 11 points, 4 steals, and 4 assists. Josiah Jordan-James had that buzzer beater heading into the half. If you remember that, he finished with 11 points, 12 rebounds. You had Vescovy, he was one of 4 players who scored in double figures, 14 points. Fulkerson added 10 points as well and blocked a pair of shots. So it'd be great to see Fulkerson get back into rhythm because he had success against South Carolina there earlier in the year. So this is a team that Tennessee is capable of beating. Tennessee is already handled by 20 points once already this year. When trying to get back on track, when trying to continue to up its resume and, play about as good as it can heading into the teeth of the SEC schedule. This is the game that Tennessee needs to win on the road against a team that Tennessee can handle, because it's already kind of handled it. Here in recency for the Volunteers, Tennessee's won its last 4 SEC games, a win at Vanderbilt, at home against LSU, against Florida, and then against Texas A&M earlier this week. Of course, in the midst of that 4-game SEC winning streak, lost in the SEC Big 12 Challenge at Texas last weekend, and the dramatic comeback 52-51. So a little bit of a preview for the Volunteers as Tennessee tries to win over South Carolina for the second time this season. They'll be at Mississippi State next week, and that will be a challenging game. Back home against Vanderbilt and Kentucky, the next 2 home games. On the road at Arkansas, that'll be a challenging game. Then on the road against Missouri, who knows what Missouri team you're going to get. Hosting top-ranked Auburn on the 26th, and then hosting Georgia, and then we'll play at Georgia, and then we'll host Arkansas. So you're not out of the woods yet. You've gone through a tough schedule in the SEC play, specifically to begin the season, but you still got some really challenging games ahead if you're Tennessee, who's 15-6 and 6-3 in SEC play. All right, had a whole lot of fun here with you this week. Again, don't forget, if you haven't already, please support the show. Go find it on YouTube at Locked On Vols on YouTube. Subscribe. Check it out there if you like to. I really, really appreciate that. You're going to help us all out here at Team Locked On Vols. And, of course, for always making Locked On Vols your first listen. Check out Locked On SEC. Make that your second listen with our guy Chris Gordy. Does a fantastic job. Interviews from all around the SEC, from all the programs. Make that your second listen. Locked On SEC behind Locked On Vols, which is your first listen. Big thanks to my buddy Zach for stopping by today, Ramon Foster, Aiden Bussell, everybody else, Rob Lewis, everybody else that joined the show this week. Really, really do appreciate our awesome lineup. We'll be at it again next week with some more Locked On Vols content. Guys, thank you so much as always. Enjoy your weekend, everybody.